Hi, this is Karen Aram for UPTV. I'm over here at Crystal Lake Park ever since the massacre of the geese, and now the construction that is underway and the destruction that we can see. But let me introduce somebody who's a friend of the geese, Penny Hanna. Penny, I'd like you to say a few words.
Without mask?
Please, yes.
Okay.
Just something about Friends of the Geese. And
I'm a citizen who found that our local park district and city councils and others were making decisions that were not well publicized to the public, and the consequences have been catastrophic in some ways. And I think I'm here to talk just a little bit about this park and the context it fits in.
okay, so let's walk around here and take a look at some of this. Look at all this green algae. I mean, this is worse than it was when the geese were here.
I don't know about better or worse, because that's one of the problems that we discovered with the decisions made by the park district. Maybe people don't know, but in June 22nd, up there, some geese flying by, and others calling from over here. June 22nd of 2020, the park district hired or made a contract with the USDA Wildlife Service, and they had made a decision in a meeting in May of the Park Board Commissioners to permit the USDA to, you should shoot these geese, they're beautiful. Here they come. There they come.
Oh, there they are.
These are the survivors of the massacre that occurred. They're establishing their rights to live here right now. But on June 22nd at 5:30 in the morning, the USDA came and did what they call a capture and euthanize program. We call it killing or culling. They were trying to reduce the numbers of geese because they felt the geese damaged their property. That was the argument. Now that has a lot of details, but I think you see this is a natural occurrence. Birds fly, humans talk. And it's about our relationship, an ecological relationship between the species. What you're seeing here is a number of trees have been destroyed along with the killing of the geese. Many other species have lost their habitats and homes, around the country. Let's move to a spot to see some more of the operation.
Well, I was devastated when I saw this, because when I was here filming previous to this construction, there were trees everywhere here.
Yes.
It was green. It was beautiful.
This section, this little section is what this whole bank and area on both sides look like.
Yeah.
Now they're putting topsoil, but when I saw it last, it was down to the bare subsoil, and it looked denuded. You can see that topsoil is being put in, but where are the animals that had their homes there?
Here's what looks like three survivors floating in amongst all this yucky stuff.
Those
You
are
can
sticks.
barely see them. What are they?
I don't see. Oh, the two little.
Are they geese or?
Oh, they're coming this way. Those are the three that went by and landed up there.
Okay. But
See,
look
they're
what
making a trail.
Yeah, but look, I mean.
Well, the algae doesn't bother them unless it's toxic algae. And this green algae, unless it's been tested for blue-green algae, is probably not toxic either. But we don't know.
No.
We don't really know. And that was one of the problems. They said the damage done is the geese feces. I want to look over here because you can see what it looks like when they actually bring the bulldozers in and take everything away. There, they landed over there. They tend to like the island area. They were captured on this side of the back of Cannonball Hill and driven up into cages made by this kind of fencing. You're going to see trees have been removed. Trees provided cover and shade. So this is where
Oh, God.
you see,
Yes.
and on the other side of this they saved that bald cypress, thank goodness. Are some of the remnants of maybe 100-year-old trees, some of them, or more.
Oh, I'm sure at least 100, if not.
So, we know in our environment we're losing species rapidly. Pollinators, birds, songbirds. You're hearing a lot less songbirds in this area because nesting areas for ducks and other animals and songbirds in the trees. Take a close up. How many trees had to go for beautifying a park? I thought parks were supposed to have trees.
I thought so too.
But,
Isn't that the whole point of being a park?
The makeover gives you a scale.
What kind of a makeover? They've taken all these trees out.
Well,
all
I
this-
think one of the problems is, where were the citizens when this was being decided? How was it publicized? I want to look over here because you can see more. There's another island in this lake, so-called.
So this is more than just about the massacre of the geese. This is about the destruction of habitat for many species, including trees and, yeah.
In 2020, I think by now, many people have learned a lot of things about how humans leave a footprint on the earth and in the ocean. I think one of the things that I, as a teacher in the high school, wanted students to learn is that they have to become observers. They have to become very careful of observers. A lot of what happens in the world is invisible to us in any one place or point in time. We don't notice, we don't observe, we don't take in or understand events and actions, and every action has a consequence. So over these 100 years, let's say, last 100 years, we have been a powerful nation, we have respected power, we have used power, and we have used that power in lots of ways that have very bad consequences. There's destruction along the path, and we'll take a little walk through this. So our environment is out of balance in some ways because our footprint is bigger than anyone. And this affects everybody. Our water supplies, our earth. Just read in the journals of scientists recently. Humans eat, ingest, through air, through food, and other dust blowing into their nostrils, microplastics. Scientists said just in a journal published this week that we eat in a year the equivalent of a credit card size amount of plastic that gets into our system. So it's invisible. We don't know that. Your children are breathing it, our grandchildren. What's going to happen in 30, 60 years with the lives of the grandchildren? So I think the young people are aware, but the people making these decisions are not good observers. They don't care to be so cautious. They don't care to know.
But just looking around at all the destruction here, it's sickening.
Well, they're making change, and change causes big changes sometimes. When you're dealing with nature and human life, animal life, you have to be sure that your consequences. So if you're going to invent new chemicals to put in drugs, they have to be tested, they have to be safe. They have to be protected. So when you make big changes to deplete a flock of birds, as they did when they killed 175 adult Canada geese and goslings, they claimed that that was necessary. But I have been working with a group of people called Friends of the Geese since, well, they began before I was aware of them. And they were working with the Park District in February, trying to help them make decisions about what to do. And there are state laws and federal laws. Canada geese are a protected species under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And that has been around because long ago in the 20th century, And the late 19th century, Canada geese were nearly wiped out. They've become endangered. So they are a protected endangered species. All the subspecies of Canada geese are. So you have to obey federal law. And that means the federal agencies that come in and have to do the killing for the local park district, they have to invite the public to have input. And they have to do an environmental assessment plan. In this case, this environmental change was not given a 30-day waiting period, nor was there public input. There was one board meeting on May 12th in which the full public could come in, and it was Zoom under COVID conditions, and people got 2 minutes or less because sometimes they were cut off. So very little input came. They did a survey that was moderately biased because they only offered the alternative of killing the geese. Do you approve or disapprove? They didn't offer all the myriad other alternatives possible, how it could be done by non-lethal methods. And this is possible for a public agency to do it because Humboldt County government did it. They had lots of public input to protect their species. That's in California. And it covered many species, but they were most concerned about some of the wildlife and wetland waterfowl, mammals and waterfowl. And they made a contract that under California law and federal law, they had to respect that and only use non-lethal methods and evaluate and carefully assess and monitor, which is in the USDA wildlife decision-making model. But we haven't seen that monitoring and testing of non-lethal methods. They didn't do all the non-lethal methods. We even offered, as an organization, volunteers to help relocate these geese to southern Illinois, to a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Reserve, refuge it's called. I think it's called Cache Creek, and it's with another federal wetlands area. There's over 95,000 acres, and the director of that institution said, yeah, I'll take the geese if you can get them here. And she said, don't use the USDA, they're dangerous to the geese. And she had suspicions. We also have our suspicions that they're quick to skip steps in the process and not let the public know. So that's why we're talking, that's why we're acting, that's why we're showing you what you wouldn't have been invisible to you. That island was fully vegetated and lots of small mammals, anything from raccoons, possums, squirrels, and other smaller rodents would live there. Now, this was all trees and plant life.
Do you know what they're doing over there? What they're digging more holes down there in the land?
I don't know what the engineers have planned, but I think they want a deeper. There's a catchment area over there that has a conduit that can drain or feed water in from the saline branch, and that gets the scummiest of all the areas. So before they put the topsoil in and make it look normal-ish, they take everything on the earth away. So the invisible forces, the microbes, everything gets disturbed. So this habitat won't be back to normal. It'll be different when it comes back, but it won't be the same as before. And maybe same is not necessary, but what happened to all those other animals?
Exactly.
There's a balance in the ecosystem.
Right.
If you pave the whole world, then you don't have any food. The pollinators are gone, 40% of your food is gone. If our water and air is contaminated, you have to do things cautiously and with consent of the people who live there. Now the animals don't have a voice. So Friends of the Geese is like an organization in St. Louis called Geese Peace, or the people, Wild Earth Guardians in California, who made a contract with Humboldt County to use non-lethal methods, which is in their process. of decision making right here in Illinois, but they short-circuited it here. So that's the problem. And when you have people who are advocating for the wildlife, that's part of the public opinion. So if you don't have bees, you don't have food.
Right.
If you put toxins into the water, we use the ocean as our sewer. My younger son does coral research in the Caribbean. There's a new coral disease.
Yeah.
And it's a viral disease, just like we have a pandemic. You disturb habitats, people eat unusual species, they bring them into the markets, and then unusual diseases get spread within the human population. If they cross over to the human population and are successful as a virus, then we bear the consequences. So everything we do has consequences.
Absolutely.
And you need to take into account that there are ancient traditions that some of these plants are healing plants. And there's modern science. You have to take in considerations from the past and from the present. You can't just go in and say, this would look prettier if we took out all this stuff and put in that. And so we are very concerned. Each one of us makes an individual decision. But when you put all those individual decisions together, it adds up. But it doesn't add up as much as the decisions made by the people with power. The people with power control the forces of national security, law enforcement, government, education. And those people, when they ignore the public input or distort the facts so that the public won't know or hide the facts, you get 180,000 people dead from a pandemic when it could have been less than half of that.
Right.
If the people in power had looked at the invisible forces at work and prepared for it and reacted to it. So today I'm concerned about the geese. I'm concerned about people being shot, citizens unarmed, whether they're being shot by other citizens, but primarily by law enforcement, because they always have guns and they are given the guns and the authority to use them. So that needs to be under some kind of control. And usually in a democracy, you revert to popular sovereignty, the idea that the people decide.
But the people have to insist
So people
on the
have
government.
to be
We have to-
conscientious observers.
That's right.
They have to be aware, but they have to be helped to be made aware. What if our educational system doesn't tell them these things? What if their parents? You know, the funny thing is, we've talked to hunters, and hunters are more respectful of geese than some people who are scientists in this community. They say, oh, population control. You cull them, and then it takes 7 years for them to repopulate again. But the hunters say, no, no, no. You destroy a nesting site, the birds that were born there go back to, like Canada geese, go back to that nesting site. You destroy the nesting site, change the whole park, then where will it? They won't repopulate. New geese will have to find it. So I guess we're saying, as an organization, we don't want them to destroy in these ways, killing wildlife, plants included, and we want them to listen to the people and be accountable as the law states they must be. We know we live in a time where people in power don't respect the law and want to act and govern above and outside the law and use it injudiciously. Whoops, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. See for yourself. If you remember being here, you remember a very different place. Now maybe some people will say, oh, it will be beautiful later.
It
But
doesn't.
what will be the unseen consequences?
Right, right. Yeah, we're showing right now the pileup of trees, big trees, old trees, formerly beautiful trees that have been, they're not all the trees that have been destroyed, just one batch from one section.
More than one section. Another island.
Right. Well, these are not from the island, are they? These are
We
probably,
don't know.
No.
Because they took them out of here.
Right.
This used to be big trees.
right,
Why would they haul them all
yeah,
over here from the island when they got a road right next to it?
exactly. Okay, so Penny, you were saying these are these survivors, these 3 geese here?
They may be, unless they came in from elsewhere.
Ah, I see.
But we don't see as many geese
That's for sure.
from anywhere. Survivors, I think the people who live in the neighborhood have been watching for the survivors because they lived here from before the kill of 175 geese to after, and they were seeing the traumatized geese coming into their yards and being very nervous. And now they don't see them in their yards, so they suspected they went to another lake, someplace safer, someplace where they won't be terrorized. So these could be survivors, or they could be new visitors. I couldn't say. They don't ban the geese, they don't identify the geese, they don't do anything scientific to say these are the park geese, and then say, okay, these other geese come and go, so these numbers are not the same all year round.